Hi, Narissa Seville here, and I'm going to give you an option on how to make a peace poppy. Now, a peace poppy is an initiative of the Aussie Youth Choir that honours our defence services, and they actually initiate the red poppy with a white poppy, string of pearls to represent all the women who have fought in our wars as well and represented our services. So instead of doing a knitted peace poppy, I'm going to show you how to do a fabric peace poppy. So I went down to Spotlight and just got some polyester cotton, 20 centimetres of red and 20 centimetres of white. So they're the two things you're going to need. White thread, red thread, a soft pencil, thread snippers, fabric scissors, and your template. So I've chosen a bread and butter plate and a bowl so that when they're together they're significant different in sizes. And you'll need a safety pin to stitch onto the back of it. So let's get started. So I've already cut some of these things out already. Let's just move them aside. Now thread snippers I actually put on a ribbon and go around my neck so I don't lose them. We're going to start with a white and a red, obviously. So let's start with our white, and I'm going to show you how to thread a needle. But first of all, if you're going to use a pencil, particularly a soft lead pencil, they're not really designed to write on fabric, but because you're not actually dressmaking, it's going to be a garment, it's no big deal. But do be careful on how hard you actually press. So a nice light line to be able to cut out, and if you've never cut with scissors before for fabric, where you look with your eyes is where you're going to cut. Because the blade of the scissors actually doesn't have any width, you can cut exactly on the line and it won't actually make the poppy any smaller. So cut your circle out, which is what we've got here. Now when I'm actually measuring any thread out for stitching, I usually will take it in my two fingers, my thumb and my forefinger, and I'll measure it to my elbow, and then I will measure it again, and I will cut it a little bit longer. So to show you how to very easily, and I used to do this when I was at uni studying costume design, how to thread a needle while you're sitting on a train, because I used to actually do a lot of stitch work on the hours train home. So you can pinch the thread in between your thumb and forefinger. I'm right-handed, so this is in my left hand. I'm holding the needle in my thumb and forefinger in my right hand. As you actually squeeze or hold the thread, you can actually, with the eye of the needle, just use it as a guide to thread your needle on, and voila, you've got it threaded. Now bring your two ends together, so you're actually stitching in a double thread. You're going to need a bit of strength for this. Two ends together, and I'm going to show you a really, again, a nice cheap way that I always used to use when I was on the train stitching, and in fact even use it to this day, hand stitching at home. So holding your needle in your left two fingers like this, put the thread down on your pointer and put the needle down on the thread. You have your tail end sticking out one side of the needle and the other ends, and you actually wind it around 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Now I can do this in one movement, but to slow it down for you guys, if you hold the needle here and now lift your thumb to encompass that knot, slowly pull the needle through, slowly, 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 and those loops will go to the very end and form a knot. Voila! So now that you know how to thread a needle, double threads, tie a knot, we're going to start our poppy. So we've cut out our circle, and this will be the same for the red and the white poppy, and we're going to make what's called in the quilting world a suffolk puff. These make cute miniature little versions of badges as well. So we're just going to fold a 1/2 centimetre edge over, and we're going to just do what's called a little running stitch. So we're going to hold the edge down between our thumb and our forefinger, and as I said, because I'm right-handed, I'm holding my needle and thread in my right hand. Now you can I can actually do a couple of these running stitches together. The smaller, and I would probably only do them, you know, 3-4 millimeters apart. So just to give you an idea. And I'm shaking because I had a cup of coffee this morning. So a few millimeters apart, and we're going to do that all the way round. So you can hold it like that, gather it up a little bit as you go. I'll do a little bit more for you, and then I'll show you one right towards the end and what it looks like. So a couple more running stitches here to show you how easy that is to actually do. And I'm literally just holding my needle still and moving the fabric backwards and forwards onto the needle. Try and be a little bit consistent with your stitching. Alright, so that's how you start your piece popping. This is one I've done before. So here we are, I've stitched it all the way around, and I'm now coming to the end. So you can pull the fabric all the way through, and we're going to eventually do that anyway. But we're coming up to the end here, so we want this nice and straight so I can show you how to finish this off nicely. So still holding with our left hand and moving the fabric with our left hand onto the needle, which is in our right hand, backwards and forwards in what is called a running stitch. Now I've come to my knot where I started, and I'm actually going to stitch a little bit past it, only by 1 or 2 stitches, just passing the knot now. Now I don't want to stitch exactly on top of the rows of stitching that I did beforehand. So now that I've actually stitched past my beginning, we can very gently pull this all together, and we're going to slide the fabric all around on our thread. So drop the needle, we don't need that anymore at the moment. Working the gathering all the way back to the knot where we first started, which is here. Working that gathering all the way around, and now we can pull our thread a little bit more, holding our left hand and just sliding the fabric around. We want to go all the way so that it's all fully gathered up and it looks like a miniature shower cap pretty much. All right, so it's all gathered up. We haven't finished it off or tied it off. So what I like to do now is put my forefinger in here, and what I'm going to do is just stitch over a couple of these folds to lock that in place. So I'm going to stitch on top of one another. So 1, 2 there, move that out the way using my fingernail, one loop. It's a little bit thick, so that's 1 loop stitched. Now we're going to do another loop, stitching on top of, and on the 3rd loop we're going to thread. 3rd loop we're going to stitch through that, pull it, got our snippers and cut it. So that is our first of our Suffolk puffs for our piece popping. Now we get to go to do the red one, which again, this is one that I've actually started beforehand and just about finished the stitching. So that's where I started, so I'll finish that off to show you. So this one is a bread and butter plate size, and the other one was the bowl, the white poppy was the bowl size. So once again, just showing you that that's where the knot is there, and just stitched 1 or 2 stitches past it with the running stitch. Oh, get my other needle out of there. Gathering it all up. Oops, let's drop that, that's getting in the way. Where are we going? Where's our knot? Okay, so we're gathering towards our knot. No, here is our, that's what the direction we're pulling. coming all the way round to the knot. There it is there. So you'll obviously know that if you've done where the knot edge is, because the gathering won't move. Round and round and round, there we go. So again, we've come to the end. We've gathered it up as tight as we possibly can. It can't be gathered anymore. And once again, let's tie this off. So we're going to do a couple of folds, one loop, two loops, and on the second loop or the third loop, doesn't really matter. Oops, I'll just undo that because I went threaded through one of the threads. Now we've got to catch both of them and snip the thread. Now I have left a little bit of a tail, and that's because it is going to be hidden. We're not going to see it, so I'm not overly concerned about it. So here is where we just sit it nice and flat, get all the gathers out, and you can see we've got our base for. Now in quilting, you would actually join these together. They would all be the same size, and you would actually make a quilt top out of these. However, I've done a few little cute badges as gifts for friends, and this is what made me think of this for the piece poppy. So we're actually going to just put the two on top of one another. Now traditionally, you would actually stitch, now this is a 1.5 button, and you would then stitch that in place to be the center of the poppy, and then you would actually stitch the pearls around it. And I'm just wondering why it hasn't stitched as close as what it did before. Okay, so that should be a lot tighter, that circle. We might have to stop the video, Tim.